Hello Oricom 1010, I am Judd Baker and I'm here to tell you a little bit about the wonderful game of tennis. Today I'll be covering where tennis came from, where it originated, how the rules and materials have evolved over time, and basic communication skills that are involved in tennis that are necessary to play the game. So, have you ever looked out on a tennis court and wondered, why are they hitting the ball like that? Or, why are the rules the way they are? Or why would that sport be fun? And where did tennis come from? Well, tennis originated from a 12th century French game called palm, meaning palm, and it was a court game where the ball was struck by hand. Palm evolved into jeu de paume, and rackets were used. The game spread and evolved in Europe, and in 1873, Major Walter Wingfield invented a game called Freistike, which is Greek for playing ball. That is the game from which modern outside tennis evolved. Now, tennis is not real tennis unless it is played inside. And what I mean by that is real tennis, or original tennis, is where two players were on the half side of a court hitting a rubber ball against a wall, trying to hit it out of the reach of other players. Now, outside tennis, or hard court tennis, or modernized tennis, is now they have a net and two opposing players hit the ball over the net to try and hit it out of the reach of other players. Now, how the rules and materials of tennis have evolved. Well, there are two events that mark the history of tennis: the invention of vulcanized rubber and the separation of the lawn tennis from real tennis. So, let me go over it one more time. Real tennis is inside with a little rubber ball. Two players with longer tennis rackets hit a rubber ball against a wall, trying to get it out of the reach of other players. Now, lawn tennis, or outside tennis, or hard court tennis, or modernized tennis, how they call it, is outside with a net and two opposing players hit the ball over the net in hopes of hitting it out of the reach of other players. So, the true history of tennis does not begin until the 1850s, like I said, when it came to America. So when the first modern tennis balls were invented and used, that's when tennis became famous. This is a modernized tennis ball, because Charles Goodyear invented vulcanized rubber and put it inside of these little tennis balls, and the fuzz on the outside is wool. Why that's necessary is because the little rubber balls in real tennis, or indoor tennis, wear out easily. Now, vulcanized rubber made it to where the tennis balls don't wear out as easily unless they're exposed to water, and they bounce higher as well. So, that's how the tennis balls have evolved. Now, the rules. Nets, of course, get higher. The width and the height of the tennis courts and lines on the tennis court are changed. And the rules change from where, instead of hitting up against a wall, it's taken outside to an outside court, and ultimately they're hitting it over a net instead of against a wall. Now, basic communication skills in tennis. There's nonverbal and there's verbal. So nonverbal are when a tennis player is trying to call a ball out. He can do three things. He can say out, he can say no, which means the ball is out, or he can point his finger at the ball, which means it's out, and that is a nonverbal communication. Now, some verbal is just when they say out, or when they look at the judge and they nod at the judge and they say judge, and the judge will say yes, it was in, yes, it was out, if there's a line judge. In college and in high school there are none, but in pro tennis there are line judges. Now, when a player wants to call the ball in, he can either say in, he can say nothing at all and hit the ball back, which means it was in, or the tennis player can hold his hand like this, which means even, which means it hit the line, which means it was in, or it just in, so he holds his hand like this, which means it was in. So, where did tennis come from? It came from Europe, and it evolved from a sport called palm, and it evolved into jeu de paume, where they use rackets, and then it evolved into our modern tennis that we know today. Now, how did the rules and materials evolve? We used to have little rubber balls. Now we have these nice vulcanized rubber on the inside of the fuzzy balls. And then rules. With rules, instead of having a rubber ball hitting up against a wall, we have this ball hitting over net. That's how the rules have changed, including the height of the net over time, and the width and the height of the court. The basic communication skills. is our nonverbal, where we say out, where we hold our finger, and in, where we use even like this. So tennis is a very respectable sport. I think people should respect it more. I think as long as tennis is not respected, no other sport should be respected, because it takes the same amount of preparation and all the other things that can get it, conditioning, everything else that is required to play other sports. I am Judd Baker, and I believe in tennis. Thank you for listening.